This could be big for the Lakers as one of the best spot-up shooters is still available on the free agent market and could be a target for the Lakers and the end of their bench. And fresh off another gold medal, Anthony Davis is looking to the future and hints about the possibility of him playing in the next Olympics in Los Angeles. What's good? I'm your host, Okechi Apakama, and this is Lakers Digest. Welcome to another video, and before we get into everything we have for you, I just want to remind you guys to subscribe to the channel if you guys haven't already to get those Laker updates. Now, with that out the way, let's hop straight into today's topics as Doug McDermott could be a Lakers target. So, the Lakers, who have been fairly quiet here in this free agency period and haven't really added any new names with the exception of their rookies, Bronny and Dalton Connect, the Lakers still could be looking here to fill out the end of the roster there with players that could add value to their team for next season. And Bleacher Report had a recent article that Doug McDermott could be a name that the Lakers could be looking at, as he is a well-known shooter, especially from his days at Creighton, and he's been just the same type of player here in the NBA for the past 9 or so years. So they went into a little bit deeper detail, and McDermott is 32, who doesn't do much else at this stage of his career, yet he remains an elite floor spacer who will fit in well next to James and Anthony Davis. He nailed 47% of his pull-up threes and 40% of his catch-and-shoot attempts last season between San Antonio and Indiana. The Pacers scored 7.1 points per 100 possessions with McDermott on the floor, which is in the 94th percentile, which is really good. And his defense's concerns would be negated by playing along Anthony Davis. Signing McDermott, or anyone else for that matter, would need to happen to following a trade of some sort, as the Lakers are at full 15 players following Connect and Bronny James. The team also sits 45,000 below the second apron, so a deal would need to clear $2.1 million in additional space and a roster spot. So that is a very important part at the end of there, as the Lakers still need to move a couple of players to different teams in order to facilitate this, because they have that 15 players with guaranteed contracts coming into next season. So they would have to make a change somewhere somehow to get McDermott on their team. But to continue on with Doug McDermott, so he definitely is a one-dimensional type of player, as he is a spot-up shooter, one of the best spot-up shooters there's there in the NBA, and he's like of that type that, you know, Jason Capone's of the world's back in the day. So he's a guy that can come off screens. Kyle Korver a little bit, probably not to the level of Kyle Korver, because Kyle Korver was an all-star one season, but that same type of ilk. He can definitely be a threat coming off of screens or in transition or in the corner. So he's just a deadly threat from three. Let's take a look at his stats from last season with the Indiana Pacers and the San Antonio Spurs, and they aren't super impressive because, one, he is a bench player, but let's take a look at those percentages down there. He shot 43% from the field, and then he also shot 41% from three-point range, and then he shot 40% on his corner threes, and then about 98% of his threes were assisted on. So he's definitely of that catch and shoot variety type player. He's definitely not going to be somebody who's going to add to your team defensively or give you much rebounds, as he didn't average over a board per game. So he definitely, like I said, is a one-dimensional player, and you kind of know what you're getting when you're going after a guy like Doug McDermott. You're going for his shooting and what he can do for your team, and those type of shooters can be important, especially on a team with LeBron James and Anthony Davis, because they draw so much attention inside the paint, and you need those floor spacers that people aren't going to leave, because Doug McDermott is not one of those people that you leave open. So him on the Lakers, it could look a lot different for him, as he's kind of been on some of these middling teams and really around teams that can keen in more onto what he's doing on the offensive end, and they don't really have that star power that the Lakers currently have. So that's why you kind of see like that little bit of a numbers dip and not too many high points per game. And then also has to do with playing time a little bit, because even with the Indiana Pacers, and then when he was traded to the Spurs, he wasn't getting too much playing time, as those teams were looking to use more of their young guys and really go with that youth movement, as Doug McDermott is kind of like phasing out a little bit, but he still is that high volume and high efficiency shooter that you can definitely use. But personally speaking, I don't think this is a guy the Lakers should be going after, mostly because Doug McDermott just is one-dimensional, and then he doesn't give you anything on the defensive side of the ball. So if you're in those high-pressure, high-level games where you need to be able to have some two-way action, I would more likely want to have a Max Christie, a guy who I know is going to be solid on the defensive side of the ball, rather than having a guy like Doug McDermott, who you know would make these high volume of three-point shots, but on the defensive end he will be a massive liability, and he can really burn you in some spots on that end of the floor. And that's kind of why you don't see him on these playoff teams, because teams aren't looking for those one-dimensional type of players. They're looking for those two-way guys that you can put in there defensively that won't really break the scheme, but if they add enough offensively, then they're on the floor. And so while the idea of Doug McDermott does kind of make some sense, because you can't leave a shooter like him, it's just the defensive drawbacks I think are too much for the Lakers to really handle, especially for a team that also has D'Angelo Russell and Austin Reaves. While Austin Reaves can be a solid defender at times, he still is a smaller two guard in the sense of like strength and girth, so a lot of guys go right through him. So adding another person like that into your lineup and then playing them possibly at the same time, even if you're trying to maximize more shooting and spacing, could look good on one side of the ball, on the offensive side of the ball, but then when it comes to defense, then teams are able to attack you, and then if you're not stopping anybody, then you're not really gonna win too many games, especially if your defense is subpar. So the Lakers going after Doug McDermott really doesn't make too much sense to me, especially because I know he's a rookie, but I do like a lot of what Dalton Knecht did in the summer league. So he is that same type of player, and then he can do a little bit more with the ball, as he showed that he can play make a little bit, and then he can be a guy that can score at all three levels. Doug McDermott is just a three-point shooter. He's not a guy that's going to really attack you in the mid-range or get to the basket as well, because he's not a high level athlete. But that's going to be it for that topic, as we move on to our next topic here, as AD wants to play in the 2028 LA Olympics. So this is actually pretty big here, as even Anthony Davis coming into playing into this current past Olympics here for Paris, there were still some question marks, and it was obviously barring health, and he did have his healthiest season of his career, so he was able to play for the Team USA and really showed out for them, as he was their best big man, especially defensively, where he was showing his ability to switch on multiple guys and then also be that anchor, that backline defender inside the paint and blocking shots and doing things, the dirty work down there. So Anthony Davis showed that he was definitely one of the best big men that America has to offer. And so him saying that he said this, somebody asked him about him playing for the next Olympics, and he says that he'll definitely likely to participate, and he'll be 35 at that point, but he would definitely be one of the leaders in that on that roster, and he also would be sort of like LA's liaison, because he'll still be under contract for the Los Angeles Lakers in that 2028 year. I believe that is going to be the last year of his contract. So he's a guy that is definitely going to be an LA legacy guy by that time, and then who knows what type of stats and accolades he can accumulate in the next 4 years, especially if he stays healthy, because we already know he's a tremendous player on both sides of the ball, and then you add 4 more years to that, and if he's able to stay relatively healthy, then I think he can put up more numbers, and then he can be looked at as one of those all-time great big mans that we envisioned for him when he was drafted all the way back in 2012. But I do think this is exciting for a guy like Anthony Davis, and that is an opportunity that I don't think many people will have in their lifetime, to have not only the Olympics come to where you're currently playing, but to be able to be the guy to lead your countryman, because once this previous generation moves on, so I'm talking about guys like Durant, Curry, LeBron, they're all probably going to move on, and I don't think it's super likely that either of those guys are going to be playing in the LA Olympics. So Team USA is probably going to move into a younger era. We're going to start seeing more guys like Anthony Edwards, Tyrese Halliburton, maybe Pablo Banchero. So all those guys are starting to come up and make their names for themselves. So Anthony Davis is going to be looked at on that team to be sort of like that leader in charge, a guy in the middle of the paint, especially when you have Bam Adebayo probably on that team, and then maybe even Chet Holmgren, to a lot of people see as that next young big man. So Anthony Davis wanting to do that, I think that is great and very ambitious for him to do. I hope he's able to complete that and participate in the LA Olympics, because that will be a very exciting time when that happens. But that's going to be it for this video, guys. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel. There is about 80% of you guys who are not subscribed to the channel just yet. And if you guys want more of those Laker news, Laker updates, you guys are going to make sure you guys are subscribed to Lakers Digest so you guys do not miss any of it. Now, with that out the way, make sure you guys comment down below of what you think of Doug McDermott. Do you think he can be a guy that can add to this Lakers squad, or do you think his defensive drawbacks are too much to really risk putting a veteran minimum contract in a guy like Doug McDermott? And then also, what do you think about Anthony Davis wanting to play in the 2028 Olympics? Do you think that's good for him? And then do you think another gold medal would add to possibly the more trophies he can add within the next 4 years of his career? Let us know in the comments down below. I have been your host, Okechi Apakama, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.